All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Client Interviews. Today we have Damon, Dixon. Dude, I'm so excited to have you on board. You've been like keeping it real low in the customer community, low key, and you've just put your head down and gotten to work. So just a brief background. Damon is an e-commerce entrepreneur. He joined us at a point where he was, working like a full-time job, had 3 clients. He was trying to start up a coaching business too, I believe, if I'm right. Yeah. And he had his own e-commerce store. And at that point, you were at 20K in debt, right? Because you just signed up with a marketing agency.
That was a little bit into the future, but actually that month I actually made 20K. So that was the most I made. It was January 2020, but everything kind of goes crazy from there.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, we just saw Damon go from like 20K in debt to getting to 300K a month in his ecom store at a 30% profit margin. So you can imagine what was your, oh, you're frozen. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so cool. Yeah, you just froze for a little bit, but yeah, we just saw Damon go from, what was your highest profit month like ever before?
Yeah, 20K in January 2020.
That was the profit month?
That was the highest that I ever made in my life.
Okay.
And then obviously this year, I think it was 87 when it was all said and done, profit.
Right. So you just went from 20K profit month to doing like basically 90K profit month.
Yeah.
Within like a year.
Yep.
That's absolutely insane. But even more insane than that is the internal transformation you've had. Because I've seen some of your posts in the group and how you just became a completely new man. Even the beard itself is a representation of the new man you've become. But yeah, man, if you wanted to add anything, I'll just let you introduce yourself, a little bit about you, where you're from.
Yep. Yeah, so again, Damon Dixon, from Northern Virginia, lived here my entire life, about 30 minutes from DC. Ended up loving digital media from a very young age. So like when I was 9-10 years old, I started making YouTube videos of me riding my scooter and doing scooter tricks, and learned how the YouTube algorithm works. So from very early on, I knew how content was made and how to get it to rank. Mm-hmm. So as I grew up, I kind of just went deeper into social media marketing, learned about video editing, eventually found my way into Facebook ads and e-commerce. So testing that stuff out while I was in college. And it's funny, I look back, I was good at a lot of different things, but never went deep into one. And that kind of all hit me once I graduated school, because I was working at the social media marketing agency, still running ads. I had a part-time position doing work for a local company. And I had another e-commerce store that I started up. Then I was doing freelancing for other people. So at one point I was running like 7 different ad accounts. Still trying to graduate college. I was making a little bit I think at one point I made like 3K my senior semester. I'm like, this is cool. Like I'm making money, but at the same time I was burnt out. Mm-hmm. And that kind of all spiraled as the months went on. So long story short, I graduate school. I have this e-commerce business. I'm working on a couple of different brands, and then I get a full-time job. And again, I was making money, but burnt out every single day. And I just knew that something had to change. So right around my 22nd birthday, it's cool, I bought a car, but I also went ahead and looked at my life and like really knew I needed to reinvest and shift the way that I was living my life. So I went ahead and invested in one program by Sam Ovens, Consulting Accelerator. And I ended up not going through with actually being a consultant. But what really hit me was the mindset portion in like the week 2 part of it. So we went into like the alchemy of self, in Quasi's program. It's the self-mastery guide, stuff like that, where I was learning about who I am, how all of this stuff works. Why do I feel like I'm always forcing things of that nature? And then I saw Quasi post in that same group, and I started watching his videos, and I like knew right away, like, I got to work with this guy. So I literally remember getting on the call and I'm like, dude, just let me into the program. I don't know you personally that well, but I can tell in your voice that you know what you're talking about. I need to see what's up. So more or less it's kind of history from there. But even after I joined the program, I still went through these periods where I was like learning a lot of big lessons that really was all from the past. I just wish I cleaned these things up and was more aware of them. But that's what the program allowed me to do, is like really take a step back at, you know, my life and who I am and who I think I am. Be a lot more fluid in that, be accepting of things changing. So that way I can make a holistic decision about how I would like things in my life to move, more or less.
Right.
So, and that's where we're at right now.
That's absolutely fantastic, dude. The most notable part for me is like seeing you change as a person and then seeing the external results follow out of that. So can you tell us a little bit about like where you were at internally before you joined the program? What kind of person were you? You know, what kind of, how did you make your decisions?
Yeah, I always prided myself on being a hard worker. So like that was never a question. I was just very confused on what I should be doing. What is my ultimate passion? I was in what you could probably call the social media megaphone or what's it called? I was just in an echo chamber, right? Like I had all these ideas, couldn't really make decisions, and I didn't know what I personally wanted at my core. So that would be the biggest thing. I just didn't have clarity on. So I didn't have clarity. Yeah, I didn't have clarity on what I wanted to do, and yeah, that was probably the biggest thing. I just didn't have clarity, and I was a lot more anxious stuff. I didn't know how to approach things. My confidence was a little bit lower as well. I used all the different things I was doing more or less to like compensate for that lack of confidence. So when I dialed everything back, focused a lot more on myself, what do I actually want? That's when I noticed a lot more change happening in life in general.
One of the big leaps that we see like a lot of our customers taking, the first thing they do is quit their full-time job. And I think when you joined, that's one of the very first leaps you took. You know, you had a really big month, you joined in, you saw some great results real quick, and then your store was doing really well, and then you made the decision to quit your job. But it wasn't an easy decision to make. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, why it wasn't easy, you know, what kind of resistances you came across and how you overcome those and took that leap?
Yeah, I think it stems back from just knowing like, oh yeah, you need to get a job, you need to work for somebody, right? And internally, like, it's funny, before I started working this full-time job, I was hanging out with one of my buddies and I said, dude, would it be bad if I quit before I even started? Because I kind of knew I didn't really want to do it. But I went through with it anyways. And I'm just like, yo, this is not good. But then I also thought like, dang, I just bought this car. I can't just like not pay my bills. Man, I have food service delivery and stuff like that. You know, what if I can't eat? So you start to put all this stuff into this lifestyle and bake it in and all this convoluted, I don't want to say crap on here, but like just BS in your head. And you start just filling up. But it got to a point where I think it was, right around end of February, I just knew, like, yo, if I took a couple days off from this job, I'd probably never come back. And lo and behold, I opt into the program, I think the end of March, actually. So I've been thinking about it for a little bit. It was kind of like in that paralysis state. And literally I got into the program, I think on like March 24th or something like that. And March 30th, I'm like, yo, I'm going to quit. Then April 8th, I ended up quitting. But once I went through that, I think it was like the first module or something like that, where we just talk about clarity. It's like, well, dude, I know I don't like this job like that. I need to just let it go. And it might be scary initially, but I have to do what's necessary to keep moving. So,
I think it was one of the uncomfortable actions that you've got to do. Like, what's the uncomfortable thing that you're going to do?
Yeah, it was that and some social media relinquishing. So,
yeah, that was great. So after you quit your job, like, what was the journey like from there? Let's look at the period of, you joined the program, you're going through the program. What was your internal journey like, and how did that reflect out externally? Because I know it wasn't just like up and up and up, but there was like that down period as well.
Yeah. So right when I quit was, so ecom, if anybody's in ecom, they'll know like the Q4 COVID era, packages getting super delayed, stuff like that. So it wasn't like it was an easy transition. Just going full time in ecom if you didn't have experience, I'd say. So I was, again, listening to a lot of people. I was obviously doing the program work and stuff, but still had all these thoughts in my head, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So still working on that whole anxiety thing. But I'd say right around May, there was a shift in what happened with how the business was operating. I kind of lost track of myself. I was like, oh, okay, I need to grow this thing. So I was doing like 100+ K a month in revenue, making a little bit of profits, but then I kind of just pooped out with all my energy and ended up hiring a marketing agency to help run my stuff. And here I am thinking, you know, I need to invest in myself. I need to keep doing this. I need to keep doing all this stuff, right? Long story short, I overpaid way too much and they underdelivered a lot, to the point where at the end of the day, that contract value is about 26K and I was down 20 on the year. So I made no money in 2020.
Wow.
At the end of September, right? Because that was a 3-month contract. I signed them in June, and then everything said and done by September. Again, right around my birthday, like I knew I needed to make another change. So I go deep into my reality mastery bag again, go back through the program, the worksheets, and I did these every 4 months anyways, but I would notice slight changes. This one was the biggest change though. Right. I knew this one was like, all right, Damon, I'm not gonna say back against the wall, but you got to figure out how to come out of a 20K deficit, come out on top, and then make sure that that situation does not happen like that again. And I had to really reflect on myself, really reflect on my decision-making. And that's when I kind of blocked out all the noise.
Yep.
I didn't listen to anybody. My parents would tell me, like, I literally didn't talk to them for a little bit. It was kind of, I'm not gonna say scary, but like I went dog mode almost. And I just went to it, man. Every single day, showing up, doing what's necessary. Yeah, dude, it was serious. I knew that just stuff needed to change and I just went at it. And this time though, I went at it in a sustainable manner. So first things first, I knew how to keep a leaner business structure.
Yeah.
Two, how to keep my internal self on a system. So I'm not in my ads manager every single day pushing budgets and things like that. I have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I do this. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm doing this. So really just trying to keep it sustainable for myself so I'm not just going all over the place. And the end result is just scaling up and profiting a good amount. So.
Got it. So you basically systemized not just your business, but you began with, first of all, getting that clarity on what you actually want, right? Yeah. Like you felt the pain of the 20K debt and your past decisions, and that put you into a mode of self-reflection. Instead of turning outwards and seeking more solutions to get out of debt, what you did was something completely opposite. You turned inwards.
Yeah.
So, because it's been interesting to see you go from, like, you were pretty active on social media, right? Like you were posting on the groups even, but then all of a sudden you just withdrew that completely. What was that experience like internally? And what kind of like led you to doing that?
You know, so it kind of goes with that self-reflection, right? You start to look at, where am I putting my time?
Yeah.
What am I getting out of that time? I wasn't thinking about this before. Like, if you looked at my screen time back in like summer 2019, I was on my phone for like 8 hours a day.
That's crazy.
Now it's literally 10 minutes a day, if anything. So I really just realized, okay, this social media stuff, me trying to talk to chicks, me posting on Instagram, dog, that stuff's not doing anything for you. So I just started, you have to peel that stuff back. And I'm not gonna say it was easy. Sometimes it feels lonely, especially like growing up with social media.
Yeah.
But overall, like I feel like it's improved my quality of life. And some of my closest friends, like I now know who my closest friends are. And 100%. We have actual like Zoom calls, like on every weekend. I talk to my old mentor, actually, he's now my good friend. We just talk every weekend, and like it's actual genuine conversations that actually enriches my learning, because I can learn from his mistakes. He's a little bit older than I am. Same with one of my other buddies. He's actually in dental school right now. And I put him on some of the reality mastery program, showed him your videos, and dude's getting straight A's in dental school. But like
Nice.
releasing all that stress, because one thing I realized, especially growing up in this era, is like we compare ourselves so much to the point where it's just overwhelming. So going back into that state where like I wasn't looking at anyone's business, anyone's life,
Yep.
it was different, but it was such it's a peaceful state, and I still kind of removed myself from the whole social scene. But I come in every once in a while when I feel it's necessary.
Totally, man. The comparison trap is so huge. I fall into that sometimes. You look at other people, you're like, oh, but they're doing this. Why can't I do this? You know, but you fail to realize that everyone's journey is different. That's how you fall into the pendulums of, oh, do as I do this. You know, I'm doing this. Come, join my program, join my this and join my that and do that. Right. Instead of actually understanding what you truly want and what would best serve that.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. So yeah, let's, I'll be curious to know, out of the program, what was some of the biggest takeaways for you, that kind of like one or two key things that helped you go from that place of 20K debt, anxious, stressed, you know, unfocused and trying out a million different things, to actually finding yourself, having faith? Because you talked about faith a lot. You know, even when we messaged, you were talking about like having faith in this, in the unknown, not knowing how it's going to happen, but just, you know, believing anyways. How did that, you know, what in the program really helped you get to that place?
Dude, you know, it's funny that it was really a big transition for me, because I got to a point, if I could scroll back a little bit, like I didn't believe in any sort of God, nothing higher power. It was just straight force, like just do the stuff. It was a transition. I would say the biggest thing for me was journaling every single day. I've journaled now every day since about October 2019. In February, I kind of took a little bit of a break. More of the reality mastery guide, speaking to myself every single day, knowing what the longer term goal and vision is. One other thing I did too was write out I do more or less I've kind of chunked down how reality mastery works. So where I do these exercises every week, as opposed to every 3 months, I'm recalibrating as often as I can, just to make sure that I stay on track and that I know that I'm doing what's necessary. Because that was the biggest thing, is showing up for yourself, doing what's necessary. Eventually it pays off. Especially, I'm not gonna say like someone with my experiences, I'm not that experienced, but I'd say, hey, I'm not a Joe Schmo when it comes to running Facebook ads. Like, you have to believe in yourself to an extent too. Like, dude, you can do this. You just got to put the right pieces into place. So focus on putting those bricks down, lay that brick down. Eventually you'll build that wall, and eventually it's game over. And that's the way I've tried to just look at how I'm going through life. Like, I'm going to keep learning something every single day. And eventually it just snowballs on itself.
Awesome. So you're saying you like recalibrated the self-mastery guide every week?
Yeah.
Damn,
I literally
that's a lot of work.
No, not the full thing. Every week I have something called the growth chart, where I document what's going on in my life. What am I trying to accomplish? What roadblocks do I feel like I have? And then more or less, how do I relinquish those and then keep it moving?
That's amazing.
So chunking it down a lot.
When do you do that? On a Sunday?
Every Saturday at 9 a.m.
Nice. So. Wow, that's actually very great. That kind of like keeps you accountable in the right direction all the time. Yeah. It's like that's why we do the self-mastery guide in the program, right? It's top of mind what you really want to accomplish. And once you keep it top of mind, you find a way to move towards that. Right. So yeah, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that on top of like, just holding yourself accountable is the biggest thing. Because I know when I was younger, like you just kind of let things slip. And the more you let stuff slip, it becomes unconscious. Then once it's unconscious, I'm not going to say you're screwed, but like now you got to really ask yourself, what do you want? So when you have that bigger vision and you keep recalibrating that and you hold yourself to it, even if you slip every once in a while or just take a break, you know what you're still actually moving towards, so you can just get back right on track. So that was definitely a huge thing.
Got it. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm also curious to know how you dealt with the downtimes in your life. Like what in the program helped you coordinate or let go of, or, you know, because you mentioned anxiety, you mentioned like,
Yeah.
you know, having that debt and it couldn't have been easy on you. And turning around from that, most people aren't able to do that.
Yeah. That's fine. I ask myself that not every day, but it was definitely an interesting space to be, especially being, I'm 23.
Yeah.
You don't want to find yourself in that situation kind of early, but then you have to say like, well, that's a blessing. I can experience this now so that I know how to keep moving forward. I'm not gonna say it's easy, like you just look at the future or you look at
Yeah.
what you can do, but you have to keep the focal point on what you can do, what you can control, what you do have. Be grateful for these things. Yeah, and I'd say enjoy life. Like there was actually somebody in the group, he messaged me, he's like 14. And he reached out, he lives like 20 minutes from me, which is kind of wild. So I just got on a Zoom call with him because he had a couple questions about that type of being anxious about, am I doing this? When's this going to happen? I thought I put in X amount of hours for this. Why is this happening? I'm down and out, not making any money, blah, blah, blah. Like that whole story you tell yourself. And it's like, you have to realize, dude, you're so young. There's so much life. You still have so much opportunities. Like when I was 14, there was no ClickFunnels, man. Like you can still do this. And I have to tell myself that, like, I have to humble myself a lot, saying, dude, you have great things that you can do. You have things that you can do things pretty well. And you just got to keep reminding yourself that, you're working towards something. So that was my way of working with it.
So you just reframe that instead of focusing on what's not going well and what's not working right now to what you do want and moving towards that. That's fantastic.
That's literally it.
That's awesome, man. I suppose looking back at where you were now and seeing how you are now, even though it wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah.
Like people go like 10, 20 years without changing much. But what does it feel like, like looking back at where you were that day you joined the program versus where you were now?
Well, first things, I had no beard and I was about 60 pounds heavier. So that's one thing. So it's like, I feel like a different person and look like a different person. But I look back and I'm almost like perplexed as to how all that happened. And I realized a lot of it stemmed from my childhood, right? In the way that the way I grew up, especially around money. And clearly I'm African-American and I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of Caucasian people, a lot of upper class, middle class, so on and so forth, like owner of the Redskin daughter, like that type of stuff. So I never realized how that made me feel anxious about who I was around and things like that. And that also just kept reflecting on through my adult life until, again, I made those switches and made those changes that I could kind of move on from them. So now we're at a point now where, the idea of wealth or growth, it used to be very scary. It's like, whoa, how do you do this stuff? But then you experience it and you're like, all right, nah, this is cool. I like this. I'm not anxious about it. I don't feel weird about it. Like it's okay for this to happen. So that was the biggest thing for me, is like just being an acceptance of what can happen, being acceptance of growing and being okay with, learning your lessons here and there. So that'd be the biggest change for me.
Yeah, that really is that aspect of having faith, right? Because you don't really know the complete picture. You don't know what could happen. You're going to get to what you want, but maybe not in the way that you want to. Absolutely. That's basically it. But I suppose being someone who has invested into, that much into a marketing agency, into all of the tactics and strategy versus investing into mindset, changing your internal world, turning the attention inwards rather than outwards onto the shiny objects. Because there's so many out there and so many business owners right now, so many people looking to get started right now are looking for all of these tools, all of these, there's great tools and great opportunities out there. E-commerce businesses, coaching businesses. What would you say? Like, what would you say is the number one priority? I mean, I'll be biased here, so I don't want to say your honest take on it. on what's given you the biggest bang for your buck, the greatest ROI?
Being patient, not jumping around for coach to coach. I'm in your program. That straight mindset, myself, inner work. I haven't invested in another coaching program for that type of area. I'm going to continue to work with what I have here and know that it's going to continue to evolve. I'll read books from time to time, but that's about it for the most part. And then I have one Facebook ads coach, point blank. Like I just try to keep it as simple and look at who's the best at what they're doing and keep working with them, see if I can get into their group, see if I can get into the material, follow what they're doing. And then obviously I have to go ahead and experiment with my own self. So yeah, it's literally not jumping around. Look at who's doing what they're doing and see who's the best, see if it resonates with you. I know for me, like I knew that Quasi was around my age. I'm like, okay, again, that's something I can resonate with. That's something I can see, okay, eventually we could grow together some capacity, or maybe we have a meetup at some group. I don't know. But I still thought that was a cool thing. Just looking at who's doing it, see if you resonate with them, and just going with that. Like it shouldn't be there's no hesitation, like especially if it resonates with you, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember what you were like on the call. You were like, I'm ready to go. Like no hesitation from you at all. I was like, whoa, hold on. Let me see if I can actually help you first.
Yeah. I would say, again, that's just because I've been watching the material for so long. I'm like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. I was very logical with what I was doing. Wasn't coordinated, but I was logical. Like I knew there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do, just to know exactly what that one thing was. So.
Got it. All right, Damon, I suppose just to end it, who would you recommend this program for and why?
Yeah. Say anybody who comes across your content, they're in the comments, they're thinking about it. You were meant to see that. I'm gonna go ahead and say, yes, the algorithm makes, these suggestions, but if you start to resonate with the content, you check out the booking calls, stuff like that, you're probably ready for a change in your life. Also, if you feel like you're in a place where you are definitely stuck, especially if you have the tactics, you have all the strategies, you've been doing something for X amount of years, you just got to pull the trigger, man. There's nothing else to say than you just have to have faith. You have to take that chance, and you have to be patient and invest, not only in the program, but in yourself, and hold yourself accountable to actually doing it. Like when I first got the program, like I didn't miss a week. Like I straight up did that work. I'm getting it in. I'm not making excuses for it, and just doing it. Like that's literally it.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with that as well. You can never know beforehand what's going to happen until you actually get your hands dirty, right?
Yep.
And even if you do like make a bad investment, like maybe you look at your marketing agency where you dump like 24K into that as a bad investment, but it was a big lesson. It was a $24,000 lesson that you learned.
Yeah.
And it actually led you to coming to here. So,
yeah.
It wasn't so bad after all.
Yeah, dude, I was sitting in the shower. I'm like, man, that was 26 grand. And then I almost laughed because then like, okay, you can make that back. Yeah. So that's one thing I also say is like all investments are is like, monetary investments, that's just money. You can get your money back. You can't get your time back. So always look at how you're utilizing your time, the lessons learned with that time, and then just keep moving from there.
100%. All right, guys. Damon, thank you for joining us. Any last things you would like to say?
Quasi changed my life, bro, in an interesting way, man. There's no shot I would have thought about the laws of attraction or just self-improvement, inner work, right? Like to this capacity, to the point where like I feel like, I'm not saying I can control myself totally, but I feel very much more like I can, just center my attention and have a lot more intention on what I'm doing. the best thing. So
fantastic. Damon, thank you so much for giving us your time. This was so valuable, and I'm sure you guys found it valuable as well. I'm going to attach Damon's socials, if you have any socials,
yeah.
down in the comments below. And yeah, guys, feel free to leave a comment letting us know what you thought of this, if this was useful to you. Till next time, peace.